All right, guys, welcome into the Alabama postgame show presented by Medical Properties Trust. I'm your host, Simone Eli, alongside Matt Scalisi. And Matt, you're there at the stadium. First thing I want to know is, what was the energy like? Alabama rolls over 14th ranked Miami.
Felt like a regular football game. Felt like a real live football game, and it was exciting to see and hear and see the energy before the game. I mean, everybody was fired up to be here. The Miami fans were really fired up before the game. I think everybody was spoiling for a good fight, and it really felt like a college football game should feel. And it was nice to see. I think, obviously there's still a few things that we have to do differently just because of the times we're in, but mostly just felt like a normal football game.
Yeah. From a TV's perspective, it looked like a packed house, looked like a great time. Mercedes-Benz Stadium is a great venue, and Alabama fans love being there to kick off the season with a huge win. I think the first thing we should probably hit on is what I would consider the most obvious topic. We came into this season wondering, what is Bryce Young capable of? What's he going to look like being the day one starter, having never started? And he delivered in a really, really big way. I'll read the stat line really quick, but 27 of 38 passing, 344 yards and 4 touchdowns. And I think even bigger than that, a ton of poise, a ton of confidence and leadership from the young Bryce Young.
Yeah, that to me was pretty impressive to see how he dealt with, first of all, the pressure of the stage, but also just actual pressure from Miami. I think they threw a lot at him. I think they knew they weren't going to be able to just play straight defense on these wide receivers and shut them down all day. So they came after Bryce Young, and his mobility, I think, was a big part of helping him deal with that. But he's a guy that doesn't look like he gets gets rattled very easily. I think he made a couple of mistakes and a couple of throws that he wishes he could have back, and I'm sure that Saban will blow him up for those in film study tomorrow. But for the most part, no egregious errors, no interceptions. He did fumble the ball when he got hit, but I would say that was not his fault, that particular play. I would say the protection broke down on that one. So, even with some things going wrong, just a spectacular day for him. I think the play everybody's going to remember, and that was kind of emblematic of this entire day, was when Alabama got backed up deep into their own end zone, and Bryce Young just goes 94 yards down the field to Jameson Williams. And that really, more than anything else, that felt like the moment when everybody in this building, everybody watching at home, all of a sudden said, well, I guess they're still Alabama.
I can tell you who definitely said that, and that was Manny Diaz. He was wanting to just get on a bus and go back to Miami in that moment, the turn of events, to go from thinking that you're going to get a safety, potentially score, get a safety, and then to get blown up on a 94-yard touchdown pass was just incredible. I think the biggest thing to stand out for me for Bryce Young is, extending plays with his feet. On his first touchdown pass to John Mechie there in the first drive of the game, he stepped up in the pocket, very, very composed. Now, it helps. It helps when you have an offensive line that looks as impressive as Alabama's offensive line looked. I mean, they looked like a veteran group. Young was not on the turf very often, if at all, and he had a lot of time. There were some moments where I was like, I could make a throw in this game because of how good of the protection was in that moment. But he held onto the ball. He looked downfield. You just don't really see that, and Saban commented on that. You don't see that a lot in guys, especially in their first game in this atmosphere. You see guys get a little anxious. You see guys, try to make quick decisions and not have that composure. But man, he just in every way clicked on all cylinders when it comes to extending the plays. I was super impressed. A name you mentioned a moment ago was Jameson Williams. I think the wide receiving core straight up said, hey, I know that we lost a lot of talent, but we're here to step up, and this is what we can do between Williams, Mechie, and Latu over there at tight end. I was super impressed with that group.
Yeah, really fun to see some new names stepping up. And, we hear about them all offseason, and it's fun to actually see them in person making plays. I think Cameron Latu was probably the most fun for me to watch, just because I didn't even think he was going to be starting until, fairly recently when we found out that he was named the starting tight end. And, 2 really fun touchdown plays for him in this game. Just a surprisingly agile guy for as big as he is. And then, obviously Jameson Williams seems like he's going to be a big part of Alabama's deep threat throughout the entire season. And then really just, a lot of good things from different guys in this receiving core. They spread it around. 10 different guys had catches today. So this offense still knows how to distribute the ball. I think the big difference to me watching it, and we'll see how this develops as the season goes on. But, Bryce can do some things that Matt couldn't do. He's got some athleticism and some ability to extend plays that Matt could not do. But I think also Bryce is clearly not operating as quickly out of this offense as Mac Jones did. The ball does not come out as quickly. And that could become something that other defenses are able to take better advantage of than Miami. We'll see. I think it's also an area where he can improve, and I'm sure that will be a focus moving forward.
Yeah, part of me thinks it's, just him being methodical and going through his reads. But luckily for Bryce Young, he has that offensive line protection that was just outstanding today to buy a little bit of time. We're going to get to the defense in just a second, Michelle. I see your comment, but really quick, I want to hit on the Alabama run game. Brian Robinson was pretty impressive, taking over as kind of the main guy in that position. And one name that Saban did mention right off the bat in his postgame press conference was Trey Sanders and how happy he is for a guy that has just been through so much. Had 8 carries, 41 yards, and a touchdown. Of course, a very special moment. And you can really tell that guys they really rally around guys that they know have been through a lot. They cheer for them. You could tell that really meant a lot to that team, meant a lot to that kid, and obviously meant a lot to Nick Saban.
For sure. I think we've been hearing about Trey Sanders for so long, and he just has had such a bad streak of luck and really had a great game today. I thought he looked like he had the straight line speed that we've expecting to see from him for his entire career. I also think that probably one of the big names coming out of this game is Jace McClellan, who I would say, even though he had fewer yards in this game than Trey Sanders, looks to me like Jace McClellan is pretty clearly the number 2 back in this offense. Just was able to do a lot of different things. He's shifty. I think they feel comfortable using him as a receiver out of the backfield too. So this is a good group of running backs. And, Roydell Williams got a few carries in there too. So nobody individually exploded today, but 140 total rushing yards between the group. I think you'll take that.
Yeah. Let's switch gears quick. I see Kyler Murray's comment right there. Any word on Henry? Of course, Toto. And Matt, you heard Saban's exact comment, so I don't want to misquote him. I'm going to let you say what it is, what Coach had to say about that.
Yeah, Saban said they feel like that it's a relatively minor injury. And actually later in the game, we saw Henry trying to go back into the game. He took that elbow brace off and tried to go back in for a late series. I think they kept him off the field just to be safe. But it doesn't seem like they're very concerned about that. Unfortunately, not such a good news from Christopher Allen, the outside linebacker, who Saban said seems like it's probably a fairly serious foot injury, and it may keep him out for a substantial portion of the season, if not the entire season. So we'll see. Look, we've seen guys at Alabama come back from what we thought were season-ending injuries, and suddenly they're back in the playoffs, out on the field. So hopefully we get a similar story for Christopher Allen. But Saban did say they felt really great about how Drew Sanders played, coming in behind Christopher Allen. And I think they feel good overall about this defensive performance today. A couple of sloppy drives, but when you get up that big, you're probably going to see a little bit of a performance lapse.
Yeah. Speaking of just top performances, Will Anderson, man, that guy I tweeted this. He's a literal scary human being. When he made a couple plays back there and came up, rocked up, just, stomping around. And I was like, that guy is going to be in my nightmares. I mean, the Bama defense, he just took over that side of the ball.
I think the front seven in general today, and particularly were nightmarish. I mean, we kept marveling at this in the press box during the game that Derek King, really, you look at his stat line, he had what looks like a really good day. He was 23 of 30, 179 yards, really did not throw very many incomplete passes at all. And I think most people, if you said that was going to be the opposing quarterback stat line, they probably were at least going to be competitive, but this thing was never close. And I think it was because a lot of times he wasn't even able to get the ball out to even throw an incompletion. He was forced to make reads and hand the ball off to running backs who really didn't do much of anything. They finished with 69 yards rushing in this game. Alabama just shut things down before it ever even got to the second level of the defense most of the time.
Yeah, and when it did get to the second level when it comes to passing, I saw a couple picks. Malachi Moore on the receiving end, if you will, for one of those, a guy who I thought should have been freshman player of the year last year. No disrespect to Tank Bigsby over at Auburn, but Malachi Moore was fantastic. The product there out of Trussville, and I just once again kind of stepping up exactly where he was a year ago.
Yep, Malachi Moore and this entire secondary, I think, are there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about these guys. Did give up a few big plays today. That's going to happen when the other team gets as many snaps as Miami did today. So I think it's hard to find too many things to be upset about from this defense. I mean, obviously you don't want anybody to get hurt, but linebackers were fantastic today. I think that Miami obviously couldn't do anything inside, and I think we saw a lot of great open field tackling in the outside part of the field when Miami tried to get something going in the running game. It just there was nowhere to go. This defense was everywhere tonight.
Yeah, I know your last name's Scalisi and not Saban, but next week going into Mercer, if you're Saban, what do you want to see? What were the biggest step improvement wise maybe that he wants to see before that week 3 game against Florida when they're maybe really tested, if you will?
I do think the number one thing that I would come out of this game offensively for sure, emphasizing going forward is the offense needs to operate quicker. Everything needs to, I would say everything we did today was pretty good. It all needs to happen faster. It needs to move like a more well-oiled machine than what we saw today. And that just makes it even harder to stop. I think that comes with experience. I think it comes with more reps and more practice. And, these guys playing together more, getting a better sense of each other. But, I think defensively, you can also, I think you can look at the lapses from late in the game and ask, why did that happen? And almost certainly a big part of it was mental. It was, we're so far up on these guys, we don't really have to take them seriously anymore. And that's going to come into play against Mercer for sure.
Yeah.
I think that will be something that Saban can harp on with these guys is consistency. I want to see 4 quarters out of this because we're probably going to have to play at least one game this year where we can't just get up big at halftime and then sit back on our heels the rest of the game.
Sure. I think that, folks have to remember, Saban is a perfectionist and he demands excellence at every single level for the entirety of those 60 minutes. But from a fan's perspective, I mean, fans check out too,
For sure.
Fans get checked out. I mean, I shoot, sometimes, third quarter, I'm like starting to look around, not really watching the game. So you got to imagine that players at some point maybe get a little disinterested. Obviously, that's something Saban always harps on. So
for sure, and I would say Michelle has a really good point here too. Penalties, a lot of penalties today, especially on special teams, and that's something that they're going to want to clean up. There were some return plays I feel like especially were a real issue with Alabama blocks in the back today. A couple of issues on the offensive line and some false starts. From the wide receivers too. So just some little things that there's a lot of young guys playing a lot of significant snaps on this team right now. And as good as they are, they're going to make mistakes like that. So they'll have a chance to clean some of that up next week.
Yeah. Well, overall, you can't be upset with a 44-13 win for Alabama over Miami in Atlanta, a place they've grown accustomed to. They visit there very often, about every single year, especially come December, Matt.
Sometimes multiple times, yeah.
I know. We've both been up there many years in a row now. So Saban, of course, will watch the tape, have some things to clean up, but I think that week 1, successful overall for the most part for the Tide in every way.
Simone, we're here so much that the woman that I just rode the elevator down with, that we recognize each other. It's you again. So we're getting this. This is becoming home away from home from everybody in the Alabama community. So it was good to be back here today. Good to see all of the fans doing fan things again, and definitely good to see Alabama out there looking like Alabama again.
For sure. Absolutely. It looks great from the TV's perspective as well. The Twitter perspective, I always enjoy reading people's takes and all the things that they have to say. So moving on to week 2 for the Tide.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week for our pre- and post-game show again. And thanks to everybody for commenting on the show.
Medical Properties Trust, at the very heart of healthcare.